Hi, I'm very glad to welcome you for the Q&A for Singing the Wilderness, directed by Dongnan Chen. My name is Harsh Pundit. I'm one of the film programmers for the 45th Asian American International Film Festival. I want to thank our sponsors, Citibank, Life Order, and Boxo. Hi, Dongnan. Thanks a lot for joining us to do this session.
Hello, Harsh. Thank you. And thank you everyone for coming to watch the film.
Because I wanted to start at the beginning. Could you tell us when did you come across this community and started thinking that there is a film here?
So it was in the August of 2014. So I was actually hired by the real estate developers who are in the film for planning to renovate the village for a short piece to document the traditional cultures of the village before they renovated. It was like gonna be part of their government report because they need to research up all the buildings, houses, and also they need a documentary of traditional culture to report to the government. So I was there for 2 months to had a lot of interview with the villagers and also filming the mat houses and the weaving, the grandma weaving that was filmed during that time. But later on, the developer collapsed and I also didn't receive my money, but I just decided to stay and continue to make this film. I think it doesn't take very long for me to know there's a film there. I was there like just for a few days. I saw the performance at the church, the ones they gave like in the film, when the leaders and outsiders came to visit them. So I was sitting there. It's just the image, like when Minister Zhang was sitting right in front of the choir introducing them, and conductor Long standing behind him, and the choir standing even behind conductor Long. So just by observing the contrast of the facial expressions of all the people, including Minister Zhang, Long, and other choir members, I think that's when I know there's the film. Yeah.
That's very interesting. Yeah, we definitely see the collapse of the real estate developer. I'm sorry that you didn't receive your money. um, this to me is sort of an ensemble film, and a lot of times, with documentary production, when you have so many different subjects, you basically choose a few subjects to follow, and then even fewer of them actually make it into the film. So I wanted to know what was your thought process for choosing Ping and Sheng specifically.
Yeah. So during the time when I was filming for the developers, we did almost, I think, 50 interviews with with 50 villagers. So that was a very thorough research period of time. And for me, I think I never took a long time to decide on the main characters. It was always like love at first sight. So for Sheng, actually, the first night when I arrived at Little Well Village, he was leading prayer at the church. It was like young people's prayer, and that's actually the part in the film when he says like Jesus was in the wilderness for 40 days, tempted by Satan. That's the first night I saw him. So but the part I didn't use the film is like when he's leading everybody to sing, his body trembles while he's singing. So I became interested in him. And at that time, he was still single and he yearly herded sheep over the mountains. So I just went with him. We had a lot of conversation about almost everything, about his attitudes towards the choir going out, about his life plans. He wants to be a missionary, and basically everything. So I had the feeling like he's not very he's different from most people in the village, and it's really hard for him to find somebody he can really talk to, because he think about a lot of things that other people don't care to think about. So I don't know what's his story gonna be, but I just love him so much that I just want to film him. And he also wants to see, like he said, I want to see how what I became after 3 years. So that's when I seriously start to follow him. And as for Ping, she was actually first discovered by my cinematographer. And he told me like, there's a very beautiful girl in this choir and she's very serious during singing. She's like always nodding her head to follow the conductor's gestures. And so I met Ping and I just immediately feel like she's radiant, not because she's beautiful, but she's so comfortable and with everything in her life, no matter it's good or bad.
Yeah, her
And
own personality is very very attractive in a way that she stands out.
yeah, and I think that like for a good documentary subject, like she lays, I just checked this word, I don't know if it's the right English, but she lays bare without any suspicion, like she nothing to hide, like she's so, there's no like this I cannot tell because I feel this is bad, that thing is not in her head at all. So, and also like I met her boyfriend at that time 2 months later, and he looks very hipster at that time with his hairstyle and also the pants like dropping over his hips. So just this contrast, the very big difference from all other villagers, I know probably something's gonna happen to her life. Yeah.
Interesting. The film gets very, very intimate. Uh, I was really taken by how close we get to both of these subjects, like basically every subject. Were there any conversations about that with the subjects before or during, or like, after the filming stopped? Were they hesitant about anything, because Sheng even reads from his own personal diary, which was very surprising for me in a way, So could you elaborate what kind of conversations you had with them? Let's say once you gained their trust, were there any issues going ahead?
Mhm. First of all, as for Ping, there's no such conversation because she doesn't care and she enjoys the camera, and she doesn't. We really never talked about. She's very open to everything, and for Sheng, that's very opposite. has a has a lot of struggles, but it didn't happen at the very beginning. For this film, at the beginning, everybody was very open to camera and excited about filming. But it just after Sheng got into his marriage, like his door was kind of like closed, not only to us, but in a certain period of time, he's close to all other villagers too. He's very alone and he avoids me when he sees me in the village. So we had a lot of fights because of this, like, and I became very nervous every time when I was like standing outside his door, like my cinematographer and we hesitated a lot, like whether we should go in or not. And but I think he never rejected filming. He just said like I need to talk to his wife instead of him, because every time we go into his house, they're gonna have a huge fight. And also not only us, but even Sheng's own sister, if she visits them, they're also gonna have big fight. It's like their life cannot be disturbed by other people. So I think I didn't film Sheng for almost probably 8 months or something. I was just planning to give some room to him. So I think there's also like when we were editing, there's very limited footage of Sheng too. So yeah, but the thing is, I'm also curious about him is like he never rejected it. And sometimes he avoids it. But in another one, when I talked to him, he said you can continue filming, doing your thing, but the best approach is talk to my wife first because I cannot decide things now. So it was a big struggle, but it just comes from like everybody's open to, we have to step back for quite a while. But in the end, he become open again. I think he become more peaceful at the end. And he said, I think the last interview I did with the two together, he said, I don't know what you have filmed, and I don't know how I looked in the film, whether it's a good person or a bad person, but I think it's all what God allows this to happen, and I accept what have happened. Yeah.
Yeah, he's certainly very. He does seem a very thoughtful person, and I always thought that he's thinking what he's trying to say, but also he's very open about his own struggles in a way. You know, yeah. uh, I believe you started filming in 2014 or 2015 around that time, and you were filming. We see the events till at least 2018, which is a pretty large period of time. And one of the things I felt while watching this film is that it felt like it could go on. You know, I was a part of their lives. I was looking at one section of their life, and that was unfolding into another, and again into something else. And I started getting curious. When did you decide to stop filming? When did you feel that, okay, that's enough? And now I feel I have a story, or I feel like this could be the end of the filming, at least for me.
I think the specific reason is that when Ping, she wanted to divorce her husband, and when she went back to her own village, so after we filmed that, I continued filming for a little bit more, but she was actually she went back to her husband's after a while, because her father doesn't allow him to do that because there's a kid, they have a son. So, but she also didn't want to go back. She went to the city to work at the KFC. So, so I followed that for a while, but I just felt like I want Ping going back to the village to be the ending of the film. I don't like the rest part. Yeah, it's probably real life, but I just have this, I just want it to end that way. And so, and the bigger reason, I think it comes to the end in a very natural way, in terms of the emotions, both for me and the characters. Like I said before, like we have experienced the whole emotional curve, like everybody loves this filming, and people hates this filming, and in the end we become, there's reconciliation, like we become peaceful and we come to an emotional conclusion of what have happened during the past 5 years. So it's a quite natural thing, like we feel it's time to end. Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to follow up on that with your process of editing. And were you editing as you were filming, or did you start editing like after all the filming was done and there was a story in your head?
I probably should editing during the film process, but I didn't. I was lazy. So I didn't. So it was like in the last filming was in 2019, and it was at that time I did organize footage before. Everything is synced on the timeline. So I give it to Matthew Leclaw at that time, and so he did the first version of the film. Yeah.
But did you have the story? Because this is a very interesting structure. This is like a multi-protagonist structure, which not a lot of people attempt. And I thought it was really fluid. So did you write the story and then give it to the editor to follow along, and then you started refining, or how was that conversation?
It was a very frustrating editing process and difficult. So when the time when I give it to Matthew, I didn't really write anything. I talked to him about why I filmed this and my feelings about the story. But at that time I was kind of want to escape So I didn't get much involved in the editing process. I was kind of in this mindset that I want to give this to an editor, and I'm just going to be away for a period of time. So Matthew takes this film for a few months, and it was quite a surprise. Like he said, here's my rough cut, and I cut out your main character Ping. So she's not in the film anymore. So Matthew was quite obsessed with Sheng's story, and he made him a very important, like the single central character of the film, with lots of Sheng's interviews I did, which I didn't actually use in the final version of the film. I also loved that version very much, but just after struggling for a few days, I think that's not the film for this film. And also Sheng is probably not ready to be the single central character to tell the whole story of his life right now. So that's when I started to edit by myself. So that's also when Nanfu came in. So I edited a few versions of rough cuts and to try to make it back to this ensemble story of the choir, of Ping, of Sheng. And so it was also not very easy. The biggest struggle is, I think a lot of people, when they watch my rough cuts, they were like, is this the story of the choir, or is this the story, a personal story of the two characters? It was really a long process to weave these two stories together. But I was getting a lot of editing help, like I went to Sundance editing lab, and also with Nanfu, with Keys, and then finally Emily helped to deliver my fine cut. So we decided on, like, it's not the choir, it's not Ping, it's not Sheng, but the central character of this film should be the village. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was curious about Nanfu Wang being the editing consultant, and what were the kind of conversations you had with her? How was your guidance helpful? Was it about the structure? Was it about the characters? What kind of conversations were there?
Yeah, Nanfu is a really good friend, and she knows I'm doing this from the very beginning. And but she didn't came to save me until we met at Sundance Editing Lab again, like when she did Matthew's version, because she knows I'm interested in that story direction too. And I think she was like firmly telling me, don't do that. And to think back, like believing the original reason why I started to make this film, and now to go in another way. And so when I started to edit by myself, Nanfu invited me to live with her for a month at her home in New York. And so I was editing, and she was like supervising me, looking at me, not to procrastinating, and talk to me and help me to edit a few things sometimes. So it was actually a very critical spiritual support, because after making this film for so many years, I actually it's very complete fitting. I love it, but I also hate it. I don't want to manage it. And also there are so many directions in the footage, but she came in to tell me, like, believe in what you believed in at the very beginning. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, I guess my final question would be that you are not exactly part of the community, and but at the same time, with this film, it feels so moving and feels so emotional. I wanted to know what was your personal connection to the subject, and what really drove you to spend almost a decade over this film. What was your personal drive? Almost a decade.
Um, so I'm very interested in ethnic minority stories. It's like before the trial from the Xinjiang, it's about Uyghur people. And I also filmed the Dai people, and this one is about the Miao people. The new film I did is about the Yi people. So I did a lot of stories about ethnic minorities. I think part of the reason is that it's kind of like being an independent filmmaker. I wasn't quite interested in the mainstream, like the center of the society. Also, especially in China, if you want to look for a diverse, a different way to look at life, and a different, just anything different, I think the freedom stays on the verge of the society instead of the central. So that's kind of personal interest that drives me always for ethnic minority group stories. And for personal relationships, I don't know, I feel very strong bond with Sheng. It's a very, I never film people I don't like. I think some people do that, and it's probably going to be a very good story too. It's just, for me, it's going to be too much a torture. I don't want to spend my life that way, even if it's a good story. It always comes in at love at first sight, and I just willing to spend this time with them. And it's also like, when I first met Sheng, I just feel not only like for his story, but feel there's this spiritual bond, the how do I say that? The emotional connection, even though we live in different part of the world. And as for Singing in the Wilderness, I don't see it as a story being tagged for ethnic minority story or religion story. It's actually a very same strong feeling as, especially this year, like how we live in China, in my own country, like how we survive, not survive, but how we deal with the relationship between individuals stuck between the past, present, and the future, and between being ourselves and the different layers of the rules of the society. Yeah.
Oh, that's very relatable, and that's also, I feel that's a great way to end this conversation. Thanks a lot for doing this, Dongnan. We really appreciate your time. We love your film. We are so happy that our audience are going to get to watch it. Uh, and I congratulate you again for the next journey of this film, for your all the upcoming films. We're really looking forward to all of those. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be back at AAIFF.